All right, so welcome back to another episode of Fast Casual Nation. My name is Paul Barron. I'm going to be your host today. Of course, you guys know me really around the fast casual industry. I've been tracking it for about 25 years and have spent most of my time studying kind of the consumer aspect of how consumers relate to fast casual, and maybe really kind of evolved the entire concept of fast casual when you look at how consumers created a demand. There is something changing in fast casual today, and it is called the ghost kitchen. Many of you know it, whether it's dark kitchen, virtual brand, ghost kitchen, whatever we call it. The fact is that there's a lot of brands that are moving in that direction. And with me today, I've got Drew Kellogg, who is the CEO of Oath Pizza. Great to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, Drew. So I've been talking to a ton of brands about this week seemed to be, I don't know, press release heaven when it came to ghost kitchens.
Yes.
I counted 12 different concepts that were releasing their first ghost kitchen into the wild. You guys, of course, have been kind of out there planning this for some time. I want to talk to you a little bit about Oath Pizza first.
Sure.
For our viewers and listeners, just to understand kind of what your brand consists of today.
Sure. Oath Pizza was started out in Nantucket in 2015. Our core group of restaurants is in the New England area in Boston, but we have positions up and down the Eastern Seaboard in New York and DC and Philadelphia, as well as a strong relationship with Aramark that has taken us across country out to Phoenix, as far west as Phoenix, and a number of other university locations throughout the system. We're very, very proud of our rapid growth, although it has provided some unique challenges. And in this environment, in the middle of a pandemic, the ghost kitchen opportunity has come along and really is capitalizing on a number of the opportunities that we see, the desire for the consumer convenience, delivery, and great food.
Yeah. All right, so Oath, I got a chance to visit some of your original locations in Boston. Great concept, loved
Thank you.
Newberry Street, I think it was, one of your locations there. Beautiful concept, kind of the original. When you look at developing a brand like Oath, because pizza has been one of those categories for fast casual, it's very competitive, and there's been a handful of failures in the category of pizza. You know, if you look, Uncle Mattio's is a good example. They've been struggling in dire straits right now with that brand. Where do you see kind of fast casual pizza going? I know you guys are going a lot of directions in terms of non-traditional, traditional, and now with Ghost. Talk to me a little bit about what you think fast casual pizza is going to consist of.
Well, fast casual pizza, you're absolutely right. The pizza market in general is extremely competitive. It's one of the strongest. It's one of the strongest markets in food in general. 2 out of 3, or Americans generally consume 2 to 3 pizza events in any given week or month. It's very, very popular, obviously, and that provides for a lot of opportunity or a lot of desire to compete in that space. There's a lot of fragmentation. The pizza is really controlled by 3 big players, making up about 30% of the market, and the rest of the pizza population is very competitive, mom and pop or small unit, sub 20 to 50 unit pizza operators. There's we believe a lot of room and opportunity to provide efficiency to the system with quality ingredients. Ours are at the highest end of the scale. I come from food with integrity background at Chipotle, very proud of that, and bring forward an understanding of great food when we can bring that to the consumer in a convenient, efficient, cost-conscious, and purpose-driven manner. We believe the brand can succeed, and we've had a lot of success with it, and we're looking to continue that.
So Drew, let's break down a little bit about kind of the unit makeup of Oath Pizza. You guys have got a little bit on brick and mortar, some non-traditional, now Ghost. Kind of talk to me about where your directions are going there.
Yeah, I think that's these times, real estate is probably the single biggest question mark on where fast casual and the restaurant industry is headed. Obviously, severely impaired with pandemic and dining room activity that is really out of the restaurant's control. Government regulations and consumer confidence about being in closed spaces has really, caused everybody to take a look at how can we be more flexible? How can we meet the consumers where they are and how they would like to be served? The very good news is the consumer is still very hungry, appreciates all of what they did prior to pandemic, but is legitimately concerned about being inside of dining room spaces, given all of the social distancing concerns and the closed spaces issues that presents. We're working through that, and the restaurant industry has done a tremendous job of adapting to that, and it will take some time to come out of based on all of the background information coming through with vaccine and efficacy and therapeutics and all of that. And so I don't. Pandemic has caused the whole industry to rethink what future investment looks like and how do you continue to grow and meet the consumer where they are. That is really driving the mix of where the opportunity is. Real estate in general is still very, very attractive. The consumer has rotated a little bit out of some urban environments to suburban environments, but for restaurants that can adapt to that and be attractive in their offering, again, the drivers, socially conscious, purpose-driven brands that wrap themselves around great, high-quality ingredients and great tasting food, I think will do very, very well.
You mentioned something there in terms of the urban environments, and we have seen, recent layoffs with companies like Sweet Green, which has been pretty much an urban brand built in D.C., evolved out, obviously Boston, all up and down the eastern seaboard.
Sure.
You guys are in Boston. You're down in Philly. Talk to me about building a brand in these markets, especially if you look at Philadelphia with a lot of unrest. And then also you stack onto that these tight urban centers who are essentially vacating all the office workers, which essentially is your customer base.
Sure.
How do you see that playing into the future of executives like yourself creating strategies for growth down the road?
Well, that's a great question. It's definitely a dynamic environment. The urban centers of the United States, particularly Eastern Seaboard, have always been strong economically. The customers are still present. They may not be in the high rises that they have been in, but by and large, the consumers are still present. They're just impaired in where they can go, how they can congregate, but the mouths are still there. And our opportunity to explore with ghost kitchens or other smaller footprints is really taking advantage of a need to be present to the consumer, but do it in a space that is efficient from a real estate load occupancy perspective. And that's what's really attractive from our perspective. Philadelphia in particular, Philadelphia is an absolutely wonderful city. It's got a long history. It's got a great customer base. I think every urban environment has its own unique challenges, but very, very confident in our choice in Philadelphia and the consumers that are there. Everybody loves pizza, and as long as they keep telling us that ours is really pretty good, I'm confident we're going to be very successful in almost any environment that we're in.
Yeah, well, I like the fact that you are looking at the ghost aspect of it, because obviously the scenario around real estate, that's going to become really a kind of a cornerstone of whether or not fast casual can grow again in the near future. With these urban environments still seeing a large exodus, we're also seeing consumer sentiment, and obviously that's going to continue until we see essentially a vaccine to eliminate kind of the need to congregate again, at least in dense areas. All right, so let's get on to Ghost Kitchen, because I think that's kind of the model that we really see moving forward at a very fast pace. Let's talk about kind of the process that you guys went through. First, to develop the idea of should we or not, develop one. What was the inner workings of your executive team when you decided let's pull the trigger and we're going to do or create a strategy that's going to take us down the Ghost Kitchen path?
Ghost kitchens are efficient uses of the back of house kitchen space. And I think a lot of our strategy was built around our belief that the consumers are still interested in convenience. Delivery is certainly been a large portion of the pandemic environment that we've been operating in. The dining rooms are impaired, but they will ultimately come back. So how do we augment a current position that we had? We have restaurant out in Ardmore. We have two other restaurants, or had two other restaurants in Philadelphia, serving the urban Philadelphia market, one at LaSalle and one at the Fashion District in Preet. Both of those have been impaired by pandemic, but we were looking to come back and say, all right, well, we've got a very successful restaurant in the suburbs. How do we continue to serve and grow our brand in the Philadelphia marketplace? Use that as an opportunity to demonstrate our ability to grow and find capital efficient, lowered risk decisions, as opposed to going and finding, traditional brick and mortar spaces that cost, orders of magnitude more to invest in to get open and up and running. There's a speed factor. Sure. It's much faster to source and locate and do the diligence on the real estate. Much of that's already done. Much of the infrastructure for the building space, electrical, septic, sewer, parking, all of those pieces of the puzzle have been really removed. And so you're not taking a lot of that risk on. The flexible format and just even the terms and conditions that we're partnered with in our relationship gives us more flexibility. We can pilot these things. If they don't work out, or we can't find a home for support, or can't get over, reasonable thresholds, we have options to do other things. And the space, again, is very efficient. We're at 400 square feet in our space. There isn't a lot of opportunity to put a lot of equipment, or B, a lot of storage. You can certainly go bigger spaces. Just for our purposes, we don't need a whole lot. And that keeps the labor model efficient, keeps the CapEx efficient. And in a couple of cases, we've been able to repurpose large pieces of equipment and didn't have to reinvest in this model from a CapEx standpoint. We're just, we moved our equipment in and turned on the digital backbone and off and running.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of operators are, at least the ones I'm talking to, are trying to piece together, kind of an infrastructure of how a ghost kitchen might operate, whether it's technology, the real estate selection process, the data driving how you select real estate. And that's kind of an interesting thing that I'm noticing when you look at the performance of ghost kitchens. We've seen some ghost kitchens that have just been absolute high flyers, and then some ghost kitchens that have really struggled, much like brick and mortar concepts. The difference is maybe you're dealing with Buxton data, or you have some other analysis tool that helps you kind of understand where the bedrooms are, so to speak, for how to place a restaurant near. When you look at ghost kitchen development, real estate's still going to be a player, because you got to strategically and logistically, you got to be in the right place to be able to strike, from a delivery standpoint. How are you guys going about that? Is it kind of just the traditional real estate research that you've done with brick and mortar all along, or have you changed the model a bit?
Some of it's been opportunistic. Our partner in this effort has multiple positions across the country, and so we were really looking for what could we do in a time frame that puts to use, not only our talent on the team and get them active in our growth, as opposed to a sustainment and management problem. This was really an opportunity for us to get some growth in before the end of the calendar year, and infrastructure was in place. We didn't come in first. There's lots of other interaction on the ghost kitchen front in the neighborhood, and so the consumer is relatively aware and educated with it. That's been very, very helpful. But markets, while consumers may have moved out and rotated to, their homes and their suburbs and not as concentrated in the downtown spaces, there still is a great deal of activity in those areas, and so it's proving out. At least in this part, it's opportunistic, and then we may refine that as we go forward in our brand growth strategy in the future.
Yeah. All right. So whether you follow people like Peter Drucker, or some of the big business minds out there that kind of tell you how to build businesses the right way and the wrong way, and here's what not to do, here's what to do. And you look at one of the things I know with Drucker, he's always kind of been, don't build businesses on the backs of others. So you need to be able to sustain or moderate your business in a way that it can manage without the need of other than normal utility type elements. Obviously, market pressures and a pandemic, not including those.
Right.
But when you look at that, and you look at ghost kitchens, because ghost kitchens primarily have to rely on third-party delivery. Whether it's Uber Eats, Postmates, et cetera. What are your thoughts on how that could go forward? Because that's still very expensive, even though you are reducing real estate, you're reducing labor. But it's still a
Absolutely.
costly process. How
Oh,
do we solve that problem?
Oh, there's no question. Delivery is a third prime now, and we've been
Yeah.
operating in it for the better part of a handful of years as the Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates. Everybody's come up to take advantage of sort of white space without a whole lot of regulation,
Hmm.
and you've seen a number of the municipalities across the country take
Yep.
umbrage with that,
Yep.
and feel that the really destroying the fabric and the cultures of their neighborhoods. That is something that the municipalities are going to wrestle with, and the delivery partners are going to have to find a way to add value to the consumer. Drucker's absolutely right. You can't build a brand on the foundation of somebody else's fundamental effort. However, convenience is something the consumer wants, has demanded, will continue to demand. We've seen that in examples with Amazon Prime and everything else. That 2 hour delivery of just
Hmm.
about anything is what's the next best is an hour delivery, and then it'll be pretty much how can we get a drone down in your
Right.
front yard. But you're absolutely correct. Delivery is a huge question mark, and it's a large load. It's almost if the consumer is demanding convenience, but it requires a restaurant to do or provide delivery on their own, taking that load on in labor, taking that load on in risk and
Right.
liability is unsustainable for many, almost every small business to undertake at this day and age.
Yeah. What's your thought on these concepts like Zool and Reef and some of these more modular style
Mm-hmm.
systems, which are kind of the new food court for ghost kitchens?
Right. Right.
What are your thoughts on those? Do you think those can work? Where do
Well,
you
I
think
think
that's
they're
going to
very
go?
interesting because they're looking at a different arbitrage with real estate in underutilized parking lots and
Right.
locations, and really,
Yeah.
in many respects, doing a great service to the urban environments and bringing food to areas that otherwise don't have the ability to bring good food into,
Mm,
and
good point.
being hubs for serving those communities. I think that's a very noble effort, and it's early days, and it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see how they perform delivering an experience. I think from a brand perspective, it's how do you maintain a brand experience through that format, and are you confident that the brand is being represented well through those. From a visibility perspective against a ghost kitchen,
Yeah.
for instance, you've got some presence. You've got the ability to do takeout and walk up.
Hmm.
A
Yep.
consumer can see where it's coming from, and that's I think something that the younger generation understands, and is a little bit more flexible with. They don't necessarily feel as much of a need to see it being produced or touch and feel the brick and mortar aspect. But I think many
Right.
of the kind of tier one core consumers out there still want to know where their food is coming from. I think food is still an intimate experience, and they want to know who they're purchasing it from.
Well, and we're going to be looking at kind of consumer behavior very closely again. If you look, at kind of how consumer behavior shifted from QSR to fast casual, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a very cognizant effort toward going to the better for me and higher quality, but yet still fast and convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this era, now we've got all this information as consumers. We already kind of know what's in our food. We know, the story of the brand. We've got all that. It's an easy conveyance. I guess now it boils down to price, convenience, and quality level that can maintain throughout.
Yes.
And if you look at the evolution of Ghost, and I guess we're in the very early days of where that's going, and whether or not we see companies like Zool or Reef or others that come to the market that bring these kind of centers, so to speak, for ghost kitchens to real life, it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm very intrigued by how consumers are going to respond in that factor for sure.
I think that's I 1000% agree. I think we're in the early days of it. I think pandemic has accelerated the next 10 years
Right.
of convenience delivery to the consumer into 10 months, and everybody is scrambling to figure out how to operate in this environment, and create the partnerships and relationships to deliver that value to the consumer.
Yeah. For sure. Drew, okay, so if you look at the consumer today, fast casual consumer, they've kind of shifted a little bit. They've kind of migrated to the big brands, but they also give, the smaller brands a shot. And in many cases, I mean, we have one here in Florida that, is kind of my tried and true that I use for lunch a lot. They're 20 units, but they have a great quality product. And they stack up really well against someone like a Chipotle. These brands are growing. Now, if you look at the consumer habits today, which seem to be not too brand dependent, meaning they're not real loyal. They'll jump for a second if they can get a better deal and a better quality product over here. So that competition of big brand isn't really kind of laying in there. When you look at the future, do you see more smaller and regional brands succeeding this category, or do you feel like someone's going to break out and do another Panera?
Oh, I think that the pandemic is a great leveler. I think it's giving a tremendous opportunity to the smaller brands that are out there, ourselves included, to provide and meet the market. For instance, in early days of pandemic, we figured out a way to flash freeze and sell our pizza through first Shopify, and then ultimately built a relationship with Goldbelly in the span of 3-4 months, and we're now shipping Oath Pizza from New England across country. And pandemic really accelerated what was at one point a dream, to say, how do we enter a CPG market in an effective manner? We did it with, a handful of late nights and a lot of effort and not a whole lot of dollars in something that traditionally has cost millions of dollars to develop that capability. So pandemic has really been a great leveler for this. I think that Ghost Kitchens is just another version of great talented young brands looking for opportunities to meet the consumer in new markets and not take a lot of risk in doing so.
Yeah, last question always is, how far do you think you're going to take Ghost Kitchens? Do you have a couple more planned, or is this something we're going to wait and see?
Oh, I think this is early stages for us, but we've got a long list. Yes, this is absolutely a key to our future growth.
So not laying out your cards yet, but you're thinking this has got some legs and there's some opportunity here.
We're only 16 days in. We're very excited to be in Philadelphia, and to everyone out there, support us in this effort, and you'll see a lot more of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much for stopping in today.
Thank you so much, Paul. All the best.
Yeah,
have a wonderful
absolutely. All right, so you guys are listening in over on Spotify, maybe on iTunes, or even Amazon Music. Make sure and drop us a rating. That's how we kind of get feedback from you, our viewers and listeners, for Fast Casual Nation, the podcast. And of course, you can always check us out on YouTube. Just hit the like button. That'll get more great content from Foodable Network. And if you have an idea, maybe you have a fast casual concept that you feel like, hey, these guys should be talking to us on Fast Casual Nation, shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com. Or you can hit me up on Twitter, and that's just @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Fast Casual Nation.